I'm so glad that you're here. My name is Iris Garcia. I work at Kataly Foundation, and I am here to talk with my dear friend Aldita about failure.
Oh, already feeling it.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Aldita Amaru Gallardo. I use she, her, ella pronouns, and I'm the founding director of the Action for Transformation Fund.
That's right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me to do this with you.
So, the F word, failure. What comes up for you?
Oh my gosh.
With that word, yeah.
Even just hearing it, my body clenches, I breathe a little tighter. For me, I feel like as the child and migrant of first generation immigrants from Lima, Peru, that like we didn't get the chance to fail. I think I inherited that from my parents who were trying to make everything work and had to say yes to every gig and job opportunity just to provide for us. So I feel like if I know that they had to say yes to everything, because if they didn't, we probably wouldn't have made it, or we wouldn't have food on our table. So, and that way I feel like, failure was not surviving. It's tied to survival for me. So there's a lot more to unpack with the F word. But for me, I think now as an adult, I have reframed failure to include learning, to really reframe it, reshift it to learning.
Yeah.
I think there's been points in my life where things felt like a failure, and in retrospect, it was just really me contending with my own humanity and me contending with the systems I was in or involved with or trying to undo. And so, I think adding more grace to the way that I treated myself and offering myself more spaciousness to learn and experiment, which I didn't get a chance to do as a young person. And so this feels like a unlearning of scarcity and into abundance for me. Yeah. So just be like, oh, you can play, you can learn, you can mess up, you can fail, and you can try again try better.
That's right. And the more people we invite in, the more relationships we're asked to hold, the more maybe complexity that our spaces engender, the more tending that must be done. For me, sometimes that feeling of failure becomes a little bit more present, that fear comes in, right? Because it's one thing for me, in my space to try something and have it and make a mistake. And then it's something else when, we've invited so many more folks in and we're trying to honor like the relationality. Right. So I think when you're talking about the stakes, right? Sometimes the stakes of perceived failure, or even like learning as doing.
That's right.
Yeah. So Aldita, would you share with us a time maybe in your work that you've experienced that you've felt like maybe you failed at something?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this question, and I think of the time where, early in my philanthropic career, that I was feeling the pressure to fit into the professionalism of the sector, and I felt the pressure to show up as business as usual. And by that I mean, I think at the start of the pandemic, we saw, lots of folks pass away. And one of them was Lorena Borjas, who is a trans mother of our movement. And she is now a trans sister. And I remember her emailing me in her last days. This is when New York was at the epicenter of the pandemic, about her grant and her grant report that was due. And I was like, you don't have to worry about this. You can release this. But she eventually passed, and I felt the grief of losing a giant in our movement, and was really in the feels of it, the sadness, the rage that the systems were failing us, that she was a trans elder that was emailing about her grant
I
on her
know.
last days. Like, I have to live with that. And our email, as we were talking about what our emails hold, our inboxes hold, her last, wishes and her thoughts. And so with so much of what I was holding to set a container for a donor collaborative and bringing in donors who maybe didn't have relations with trans people, and some that did, a lot of them who didn't, and with other trans activists who were making decisions on grants, I was like, how do we show up as, business as usual when we've lost so many people in one of our, foremothers? So, and that way I had to slow down and sit with my grief, and also be like, well, what is this asking of me in this moment? I'm a very spiritual person and have my daily practices, but there was something around setting this container with and for trans people that then forced me to be like, I need to bring in spirit into this grant making meeting. And ultimately that looked like a virtual altar that we got to bring in our people, bring in why we're doing this work and for them. And that allowed for us to speak from the heart, to address the grief that all of us, not just me, but so many of us were holding and still showing up for the sake of resourcing our communities. And that was really beautiful. It was powerful. It shifted the way we showed up with each other. And that was something that I won't ever allow for myself to sort of compartmentalize or disassemble my spiritual self to the work of resourcing our people. And so much of my work now is to honor the sacred reciprocity that we have with each other and with, our ancestors. So that feels like an important moment in my learning to honor my own journey and my gut and intuition and to be accountable to my community and my ancestors. That just felt really important to me.
I want to share a little failure story from my end that also speaks to how you and I have been working most recently together. And so I'll say that my job with my colleague Donna Bransford is to run the Mindfulness and Healing Justice program at Kataly. And we had been every year doing the survey from funders for LGBTQ issues, and looking and through that process being able to see where are funds being redistributed and are they really hitting queer and trans communities. And while we had been funding organizations led by queer and trans people, we were not as clear in terms of are these monies actually ending up in trans communities, and we just felt like we could do better. And so I reached out to you to help advise this spend out strategy around funding ecosystems for trans healing. And we worked on it for a while.
We did.
And had incredible conversations in beautiful places. We were also mindful of how can we have a pace that feels like it will engender some creativity. And so we did that first draft of redistribution and looked at it in these areas that were really important, building up trans and gender nonconforming leadership, narrative strategy, intermediating redistribution efforts that were trans-led. And then we were like, where's the spirit?
Right. What's missing?
What's missing?
Yeah.
And that had been our intention from the beginning, and yet, somehow philanthropy had crept in there of the professionalization or the strategy
the spreadsheet
of it all. and we got in that second round to be like, no, we are, stepping into our own autonomy and choices about, no, we see this work. This work is critical. The people who are holding this work are critical. They deserve to be whole. They deserve to be resourced. And so it was like these interesting moments where you're like, oh wait, we didn't hit it.
Right. It's like a whoops, and let's go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, more is needed. And what creeps in, right? When we're making these kind of choices.
And it was possible to listen to the creeping into the voice spirit, I think, when we were like, oh, let's actually slow down. And the spaciousness that was built between you and Donna and I, that was really special and beautiful. And honor so many of our legacies that we were bringing into the room.
Yeah, yeah, and naming that, right? And so I think just to circle back to your original story that you offered of breaking free and demanding that we stay whole and integrated. What does your work look like now?
Yeah, this is, I've been able to found the Action for Transformation Fund, which is resourcing trans-led organizing, healing, and power building efforts. This means that we're funding traditional organizing work, like direct actions and mobilizations, but at the heart of it, we get to resource healing work and bring in spirit and to name the different ways that our communities are taking care of each other. And that looks different in different regions, but like to name that we're divine spiritual people that are offering our medicines to our people so that we can heal through this moment and build anew and build organizations and support our communities has been really powerful. Even just naming like two-spirit drum circles as spirit work, naming ballroom, sort of performances as healing work, and the sort of all the beautiful creative artistic work that offers our people healing and expression and release that and connection to each other, that's been really beautiful to resource in this time.
Yeah. So let's just end maybe with talking about why it is important, I think, in the philanthropic sector to talk about failure. What could that open up, and or, what does the refusal to engage with failure, what does that limit?
Right. I mean, I think it's such an opening to practice humility, to be in our humanity. We need to model that for our grantees, right? Because we're imposing and demanding a lot from them, like 1 year solutions to systemic historical trauma. That's just unreasonable. It's not even feasible. So like, how can we model and talk about failures and failing to see humanity in our people, that I think then interrupts all the other things that our evaluation and now learning, but evaluation, the judgment of it all, right?
Yeah.
These are humans trying to do their best with limited resources and limited time. I think it opens up a conversation around being accountable, and to whom are we accountable? I hope that we're accountable to our communities, to each other, to the land, and not these, human-made ideas of what things should be and what needs to be done.
I think that that story you offered about Lorena's email really hits home. Right, like what are we actually trying to orient to? So, how beautiful that you've, created something that is honoring to her.
So much of this work is to say, I am worthy, I belong, I actually have power, I'm embodying love, and so many of us do that just to show up, right? And so, how do we get to sustain that and embody it on a day-to-day? Feels like part of the work of showing up in philanthropy and day-to-day and what's being asked of us so that we can, hold containers for learning and to resource our people, with multiple stakeholders feels like it's necessary work. It's not optional for me anymore.
That's right. And I see you doing that and tending to that. And it's making me think about, like the deep, difficult work that you're doing for resourcing trans communities, and how much you also dedicate yourself to shoring yourself up.
That's right.
Spiritually, and for all of us to know our worthiness and our inherent dignity, and that being the antidote to the fear of failure.
That's right.
Thank you for being such a model in that.
Thank you.
Yeah.